What is going on, guys? It's Gospel Gamer here. We are back on Steins Gate 0. After Fubuki's exam was over, we went to her room and listened to her complain, and then the visit was over. Well, that seems like quite nice and easy and short. It's always good. Just like Dr. Leskinen said, she looked just fine. She told us she was ready to leave the hospital and jog all the way home. Mayuri and the others were relieved, but I felt worried. Did I need to talk to Dr. Leskinen about reading Signer after all? But how would I explain it? It might be a better idea to talk to Mayo and have her explain it to him. I couldn't come to an answer right away. Oh, itchy eyeball. Oh, Suzuha's time. It was a very hot day in 1998 when Suzuha said goodbye to Kagari Shiina. She'd gone to get food and water from a local store, and when she'd come back and opened the hatch, Kagari was inside, screaming. What? She looked inside and saw that Kagari was slamming her tiny hands down on the control console. Kagari shrank back when she saw Suzuha. Okay. What happened? Kagari started to cry. Suzuha relaxed her guard. Kagari had PTSD from her time as a war orphan, and she hadn't fully recovered yet. Mayuri had once told her that she had got very frightened in dark, cramped places. It would make sense if waking up in dark caused a panic attack, and the time machine could only function with Suzuha's biometric authorization. Someone of Kagari's size wouldn't be able to break the console either. Suzuha grabbed one of Kagari's tiny hands to help her up and then led her outside the machine.
Kagari, 約束するんだ。どんなことがあっても操縦席のスイッチに触ったりするな。いいな。
I mean, there's got to be a reason why Kagari looks so much like Kurisu. There's got to be a reason for it. Could she be Kurisu? Suzuha handed Kagari the provisions she'd bought, then went inside and poked her head into the cargo space under the control console. She connected the IBM 5100 she'd stored there to a portable terminal she'd brought from the future. By all appearances, it was an early 2000s cell phone, but inside it was a miniature quantum computer from the year 2036. Of course, future Daru had made it himself. When she booted the IBM 5100, rows of numbers started to appear on the screen. Kagari was looking in from outside the machine.
2000年問題は勉強したか？施設の学校でちょっとだけ。結局何にも起こらなかったんでしょう。表向きはね。
Right.
公表されてないけど、実は当時あれのせいでいくつかの地域や国に深刻な問題が起きたんだ。
Okay.
なの？問題だったのはこの IBN5100 というコンピューターなんだよ。これにはプログラム言語が搭載されてるんだけど、そのプログラムの問題点を技術者たちが修正できなかった。というより、そんな言語で書かれた重大なプログラムが存在すること自体全く知られてなかった。第三次世界大戦はタイムマシンの開発競争が発端なんだけど、もしかすると2000年問題で発生したある事象と それに付随する対立こそがもっと深い原因である可能性がある。
Right. She didn't expect a 10-year-old like Kagari to understand this, but she didn't feel like taking the time to explain.
しかも西暦2000年というのは特殊な年でね。全ての世界線が一旦一つに収束してしまうらしいんだ。それに関連して
Interesting.
あらゆる世界線の因果に重大な影響を引き起こすかもしれない。私たちが目指してる
So what happens if someone went back to fix it?
シュタインズゲートも例外じゃない。
She looked down at the terminal connected to the IBM 5100.
だからこれは2000年問題を起こさないようにするための修正プログラムなんだよ。
Right now, the terminal was converting the patch into the language used by the 5100. The next step was to spread the program all around the world in the form of a virus. In the year 2000, problems of this era's engineers missed would be completely disappeared. What words? The word "connect" appeared on the terminal's subscreen.
OK つながった。
She'd been told that in Japan in this era, ADSL was still in the test phase, and most normal users connect to the internet by low-speed dial-up using ISDN. But major cities like Akihabara, universities, labs, and some big computer companies were starting to use fibre optic broadband. Some of them were even using wireless LANs. Local area networks, I think that's called. Suzuha cracked her way into one of those. Dad had laughed when Dad had laughed when he'd said that with 2036 technology, cracking late 20th century network security was a joke, but he'd been right.
でも未来を変えちゃったらカガリたちがいた未来の世界も全然変わっちゃうんじゃないの？
Surprisingly, Kagari had gotten the gist of what Suzuha had just told her.
そういうことだ。もうあの世界は存在させない。私たちはシュタインズゲートを目指すためにここへ来たんだから。
Suddenly, the uneasy look on Kagari's face vanished. It was as if her soul had left its body. Suddenly her face was expressionless and her eyes were wide.
声。
What?
神様の声聞こえる。カガリ？
What?
ダメだよ。よくないよ。ダメなんだよ、鈴葉お姉ちゃん。そんなことしちゃいけないんだ。おい。
What? Kagari was acting strangely. Suspiciously, Suzuha reached her hand out towards her, but she slipped past Suzuha's hands, and quicker than any child should be able to move, she slammed her shoulder straight into Suzuha's body. Suzuha was caught completely off guard. That's how fast it was. Kagari's shoulder hit her in the solar plexus. She bent over and collapsed onto the seat. Kagari tore the terminal out of Suzuha's hands. The cables connecting it to the IBM 5100 were ripped out and errors displayed on both screens. Kagari didn't answer the question. Instead, she grabbed the backpack that Suzuha had placed in the seat and spilled its contents all over the floor. There are MREs, spare parts, clothes, and semi-automatic pistol. Suzuha couldn't believe it. Kagari was going to try and pick it up. She forced herself to ignore the pain as she jumped on Kagari's body. The fuck? But another unbelievably powerful body slam knocked her back. The fuck? Something cold was pushed right up against her brow. Kagari's tiny hands weren't shaking at all as they clutched the semi-automatic pistol. In the space of an instant, the safety on the gun had been flipped off. That's when Suzuha realised that this wasn't just a temper tantrum. Suzuha was the one who taught her how to use a gun. That's why she knew that Kagari was perfectly calm. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. There was no hesitation in her eyes. Instead, Suzuha saw only resolve.
のまま戦争が起きてもいいっていうのか。そんなのわかんないよ。かがりは元の世界に戻りたいだけだもん。ならもう無理だ。私たちはタイムマシンですでに過去に干渉してる。世界線だってずれてしまってるはずだ。あそこに戻れる可能性は低く。うるさい。
Oh my god.
絶対に助けるんだ。この世界を消すなんてダメだよ。絶対にやらせないから。
Oh my god, what the fuck is going on? Kagari turned the gun... Okay, this is why they need the IBM 5100. This makes sense. Kagari turned the gun towards the IBM 5100.
やめろ。
There we go, yeah. Exactly what I thought. She's going to shoot it, and that's why in the original Steins Gate they have to look for one. That makes complete sense. Before Suzuha could stop her, she yanked down the trigger. Again and again. And then Kagari jumped out of the time machine, and Suzuha never saw her again. Interesting how she never told us that before, isn't it? Bitch. On every night that passed, she remembered Kagari. Suzuha had spent some time looking for Kagari when she'd first come into this era, but in the end she'd never found anything. But Kagari Shiina, who is now 22 years old and was here in Akihabara, Suzuha was sure of it. But it didn't no good to keep thinking about it, so Suzuha decided to stop thinking and look around the room. I thought he was naked then. Itaru, her dad, was playing another game populated entirely with female characters. His jaw was slack and he was scratching the belly fat that stuck out from under his shirt as he played. There wasn't much to respect in him right now, either as a father or as a person.
そういえば、母さんとはうまくやれてる？ね？大丈夫？私が生まれてこなくなるような事態にならないよね。
なんつの？タイムマシンよりもなんだい？
ちょっと。
Wow. Suzuha stormed over to Itaru.
困るよ、父さん。
パパ、頑張るからね。
いっつも口ばっかり。結局、例の映画のチケットも無駄にしちゃったんでしょ？
She meant the pair of movie tickets that Mayuri and Faris had conspired to give them at the Christmas party.
あれはさ、オカリンと吹雪氏が倒れちゃったじゃん。その後、お見舞いとかでバタバタしてるうちに映画が終わっちゃってたわけで、しょうがないっつうか。
Disgraceful.
新しいチケットを用意しようとしたら断ったって聞いたけど。
誰に？
マユネさん。
Oh dear.
決まってるじゃないか。
そりゃあれだ。マユシとフェイリスタに頼りきりなんて男らしくないっしょ。キリ。
ね？
That's a silly excuse.
行動に移したわけ
？Don't you ... her?
ダメだこれ。
Maybe this was a more important problem than the time machine. Suzuha brought her hands up to her head.
いい父さん。私、いつまでもこうやってお説教できないんだからね。もうすぐ行っちゃうんだよ。
Suddenly there was a sad look in Nataru's eyes.
そういう顔しない。約束したはずだよ。もう迷うのはやめにしようって。
For the past 6 months, Suzuha had been thinking about whether it was really right to erase this world, but in the end, it was none other than Nitaru who pushed her to go ahead.
ごめん。
She couldn't bear to see her father so depressed, so she patted his broad back.
しょぼくれてないで、母さんにメールして。予定の空いてる日がないか聞いて。で、空いてたら映画に誘う。
いきなりハードル高すぎ。
No, it's not. Man up.
でもいいから誘いなさい。いい？これは命令だからね。
命令って。
変 返事は？
Sir, yes sir.
Sir, yes, sir. Satisfied, she headed off to take a shower.
あ、でもその前にちょっとだけコンビニに行ってくる。にらまないで。なるべく太らないようなものを食べますんで、何卒お許しを。
バニラ。
Vanilla? Oh, she wants ice cream.
私、
There you go.
アイス食べたい。バニラ。
うん、わかった。庶民がなかなか口にできない高級なやつをいっぱい買ってきてあげる。
いっぱいはいらないよ。一つでいい。
そう、yes sir.
Good old Taru. That was enough to cheer Taru up. He took his wallet and ran out of the lab.
やれやれ。世話が。
Suzuha's ended up being like his mum, basically. I find that quite funny. She'd just about taken off her jacket so she could take that shower, but...
Suzuha!
Itaru had come back into the lab.
どうかした？
階段のところにさ、こんなの落ちてたんだよね。
Itaru showed her a keychain she was holding. It was a round anime character whose colour had faded to a smoky green. It was... an Oopa.
誰のかわかる？
I know exactly whose it is.
ないの？
No, Mayu still has hers. She leaned forward to take a closer look, and then felt like she was experiencing deja vu.
このウーパー、どこかで。
She'd seen it before. She couldn't really remember when, but her internal alarms were going off. The keychain was extremely important. It's Kagari's. Oopas were common enough that you could find them anywhere. The plastic edges had worn down, the paint was fading and coming off in places. But there was no dust and there were no stains. Instead it shone brightly as if its owner had put a lot of effort into taking good care of it. The chain was so old that part of it had snapped off. That was probably how it got dropped.
どこだっただろう。どこかで見た。
マユ氏に見せてもらったとか？
そうなのかな。
She stared at the green Oopa in Itaru's hands, and then in her mind she heard a young girl scream. There it is.
ママがずっと大切にしてきたウーパのキーホルダーだよ。タガリちゃんにあげる。
She gasped. A feeling of indescribable terror raced down her spine.
まさかこれかがりのか。
That was when she'd last seen it. August 13th, 2036. The day she'd gone into the time machine, and that's when she'd seen the Super. It was older and more worn now, but the more she remembered that day, the more certain she became. This was the Oopa, pardon me. This is the Oopa that Mayuri had given it to Kagari. She'd seen Kagari holding it and crying to herself many times before. I actually own a Met Looper, by the way.
かがりって
Quite a cool little thing.
もしかして未来のマユ氏の娘？
うん。
見つかったん？
いやでも向こうはこっちを認識しているんだ。
つまりどういうことだってばよ。
あいつこの監視してるんだよ。
Satisfied, she headed off to take a shower. Ever since then, her careful efforts to defend the time machine had paid off, and she hadn't seen any sign of Kagari, but she'd never thought she'd be watching the lab.
いや、ちょっと考えれば当たり前のことだったんだ。あいつは私たちがシュタインズゲートに到達するのを阻止しようとしてる。この世界をなかったことにしたくないと思ってる。ということは私だけじゃなく父さんもマークされてる。
Interesting.
え、僕？
まあ父さんの命に危険はないとは思うんだ。世界線の摂理を信じるなら父さんは少なくとも2036年までは生きるはずだし、ただシュタインズゲート到達を阻止するために 父さんの研究の邪魔はしてくるかもしれない。
Right. A lot of bad things have been happening around Suzuha Itaru and Rintaro Okabe. There was some possibility that the final target was Itaru.
これからは用心のために、私がいない時には必ずドアに鍵をかけておいて。
わかった。
オカリンおじさんや母さんやマユ姉さんたちが一緒にいても絶対に開けっぱなしはダメだよ。気休めかもしれないけどドアチェーンもかけた方がいい。
でもさ、オカリンやマユ氏ならともかくアマネ氏と二人きりの時にそんなことしたらなんか別の意味で怪しくね？アマネ氏に変な誤解されないかな？
What? Oh yeah, that does make a good point.
もしそれで嫌われでもしたら我が家のピンチだお。
Suzuha groaned softly, unsure of what to do.
父さんがもっと早く母さんと恋人になってれば何の問題もないのに。
Yeah, your fault. Yeah, exactly, bitch.
注意だけはしておいてよね。
Suzuha decided to keep the green Upa keychain. She softly ran her fingertips over it as she stared at it.
なあ鈴葉、かがりたんって血はつながってないけどマユ氏の娘なんだよね。
そうだよ。
あのマユ氏に育ててもらった子が人を襲うような恐ろしい人間になるのかな。なんか
What?
鈴葉の話とイメージが
Oh yeah, I get it, yeah.
つうかもっと優しくてホワホワしてて可愛い女の子になってるんじゃないかなとか思ったり。
だとよかったんだけど。
That was slightly creepy as well. Cute little girl, weirdo.
私も前はそうなると信じてたけど今のかがりは多分。
From what she'd seen at the radio building, she could tell Kagari had definitely received professional combat training. It wasn't just simple self-defense techniques that she'd learned from Suzuha when she was a child. As she'd grown up, she'd been taught cold techniques of a killer. There was no way to know if where she'd been or what she'd been doing ever since she'd gone missing in 1998. So she was like 9 back then. And this takes place like 2012, so she'd basically be 23-ish. But there was no doubt in Suzuha's mind that she was trying to ruin her plans. 22 actually, I think I mentioned in the beginning of this. Why did I forget that already? Well done me. Suzuha sighed as she took a shower. Since it was summer, she set the warm temperature low. It was barely any hotter than tap water. As long as the water was pouring down on her, she could feel like the bad memories were being washed away. She slapped her cheeks with both hands and turned off the water. The small tiled room suddenly became quiet. In the silence, she vigorously toweled off her hair. This building was never intended for anyone to live in. Not only was there very little room, there wasn't even a place to change. It was small and there were no windows, and steam from the shower had built up, making it an unpleasant sauna in summer. Supposedly, Itaru and Okabe would sit naked to the fans to get away from the heat and moisture. Of course, that was only when the girls, as well as Luca Urishibara, weren't around. But Suzuha couldn't do that. There were those huge scars on her chest, and if she was careless and Yuki saw them, she'd have a big problem. So she'd always force herself to change within the small space. Why's the lights out? The second she left the shower room, she realised something was wrong. The lights were off in the part behind the curtain where the lab room was. She was sure she had left all the lab lights on when she'd gone to take a shower. She didn't remember turning them off. Still completely naked, she flung open the curtain. She dropped to the floor, ready to move. She could tell by the light from the shower room that there was no one else here. She didn't hear any breathing, and she didn't feel like any other presence, or feel any other presence, sorry.
一度戻ってきたのか。
And then when he'd left, he'd turn the lights off? No, that couldn't be right. She turned around the room and saw things had been moved in a way that an amateur wouldn't be able to notice. Itaru's computer desk, the sofa area, the bookshelves, even the mini kitchen. Someone had gone through them all. From the look of it, the same was probably true of the development room. Suzuha glanced over all areas where she kept her guns. The closest was the sofa she used as a bed. She wanted to have one easily available if she was attacked while she slept, so she cut out the back of one of the sofa cushions and hidden a suppressed semi-automatic pistol in it. It was just a .32 caliber for self-defense, so it wouldn't do much damage unless you had good aim. But it was small, relatively quiet, which made the best choice for a place like this. Suzuha tensed all her muscles, coiling like a spring, and slowly moved towards the sofa without making a sound. As she did, she tried to notice changes in the surrounding area. There was a small sound in the development room. It was a tiny, tiny creaking of the floor, which you'd usually pay no mind, but there was more than enough for Suzuha. In an instant, she moved from quiet to action. She cleared the distance to the sofa in an instant and quickly drew her gun. She held it ready and slipped into the shadow of the refrigerator. From this position, she could barely see into the development room. Oh, is that the same one who was at the radio building? On the motorbike? The room became silent again, but this time the intruder in the other room didn't try to hide their presence. Suzuha threatened the intruder in a low voice, but the intruder seemed completely unconcerned as they exposed themselves to Suzuha's gaze. The intruder was wearing a motorcycle suit, just like before. Even the helmet was the same. The leather suit clung tight to their skin, revealing a voluptuous and perfectly proportioned body. Interesting. It was clearly a woman. No shit, I can tell that. Suzuha pointed towards the entrance to the shower room. The shirt she'd just taken off was lying there on the floor. The girl in the motorcycle suit turned her head, but because the face marks was down, Suzuha couldn't read her expression. The second she spoke, Kagari Shiano was the first to move. She drew a deglossed. It is deglossed, isn't it? Deglossed military knife that she must have been hiding behind her back, and closed the gap between herself and Suzuha in an instant. Suzuha pointed the gun at her legs and pulled the trigger, carefully aiming away from her vitals. She heard the small pop of a suppressed 32 and saw Kagari lose her balance and fall. Or she thought she did, but that was a feint. She'd only pretended to lose her balance. In fact, she'd changed directions and went heading for the shower room. It seemed her first goal was to get what she'd come for. Fucking hell, this is getting like fucking action-y now. After firing only one shot, Suzuha realised even a 32 should have more recoil than this. She fired again, but Kagari didn't flinch even for a moment. She switched out the ammo, basically. At some point, all the bullets in Suzuha had gone and been swapped with blanks. That instant's panic was all it took. Kagari reached out for the shirt on the floor in front of the shower room. Suzuha gave up on firing and flung the gun at Kagari. There was a dull thud as the hard barrel slammed into her neck. Caught off balance, she staggered before she could grab the shirt. She could hear Kagari's voice for the first time from within the helmet. Suzuha jumped. She kicked the off-balance Kagari as hard as she could with her toned, muscled legs. There was no time to hold back. Jesus Christ. Kagari went flying all the way to the edge of the room. That had to have broken a few ribs. Suzuha jumped towards her to continue the attack. But with terrifying speed, Kagari leapt off the ground and charged at Suzuha. There wasn't enough time to come to a full stop. A sharp blade swept by mere centimeters from her exposed abdomen. If she pulled back even a tenth of a second later, the knife would have fatally sliced open her gut. The blood rushed to Suzuha's head. Kagari was serious. She was planning to kill her. There was no hesitation in her movements. Suzuha leapt back in search for something she could use as a weapon, but the other guns were probably no different. There was a good chance they'd all had their ammo swapped with blanks too. There was even possible that her self-defense knives had been taken too. Which left? There were several knives carefully stored in the kitchen. Yuki had brought them over to use teaching the girls how to cook, but Kagari had evidently noticed them as well, and she was moving to keep Suzuha from reaching them.
へえ、ずいぶん離れしてるじゃないか。とてもマシンの中でベソベソ泣いてた子供とは思えないな。驚いたよ。
Suzuha kept a distance from Kugari as she slowly moved along the wall. Her competitive drive burned even brighter as she tried to come up with a way to overcome her disadvantage.
ほら、カガリ、これだろ。
She picked up her shirt from the front shower room and took the green keychain out of its pockets.
どうした？取りに来なよ。
Her fingers moved as if to crush it. She could see Kagari twitch for the first time she could detect a hint of motion behind the helmet. And in an instant she threw it at Kagari's stomach. The keychain flew in a slow arc. It was like she was tossing it to a friend. If something they loved was thrown like that, even the fiercest warrior would instinctively reach out both hands to grab it. Kagari was no exception. She carefully held her mother's memento in both her empty left and the right hand that still clutched the knife. Using the slow arc of the keychain as camouflage, Suzuha ran at her in a straight line. Her right fist connected with Kagari's stomach. Then her left arm smashed Kagari's head to the side. Rear naked choke. Kagari's body fell to the ground, her right shoulder taking the brunt of the fall. Suzuha could hear the sound of a joint dislocating. Ow. The knife slipped from her grasp. Okay, Suzuha got behind her and mounted her, twisting her right arm mercilessly. At the same time, she slipped her own arm around Kagari's neck and squeezed hard. Rear naked choke. She could hear something like a moan from Kagari's throat. She could hear both the bones in her arms and neck creaking. But Kagari picked up the knife on the floor with her left hand and once again tried to use it on Suzuha. Suzuha was forced to squeeze her arm and neck even harder. But Kagari didn't stop. If anything, she tried even harder to pull Suzuha away. Even in all battles she'd been in, this much pressure in two different spots was enough to get even the toughest soldiers to submit or fall unconscious. Terrified, Suzuha squeezing even harder. At this rate, she wouldn't simply knock her out. She really would kill Kagari. But if she stopped, Kagari would kill her. What should she do? And then she heard a sad, weak voice from inside the helmet. It startled her, and she relaxed both her arms. But that was just what Kagari had hoped for. The knife came very close to cutting Suzuha's left arm. When she let go to dodge it, Kagari shook her off and kicked her at the hips with both legs. Jesus fucking Christ. Suzuha was slammed back hard into the computer desk, and for a moment she couldn't breathe. She fell to the floor and the printer and monitor crashed mercilessly onto her naked body. Ow, that sounds painful. She forced herself to stand up, gasping hard as she did. Kagari's breathing was heavy too. Her right arm was pointed in the impossible direction and hanging limp. She wouldn't be able to use it for a while, probably, but her left arm was still holding the knife. Suzuha glared at Kagari's face, not because she could see what was behind that helmet. The two of them fell silent as they tried to catch their breath. The tension in the air was so thick that it was difficult to move a muscle. Sweat rolled down the forehead and into her eyes, but she didn't blink as she waited for Kagari to make her next move. I guarantee Daru comes back in time. It was the sound of the front door opening that broke the stalemate. Oh, that's ironic, isn't it? Like, literally the next thing. Suzuha felt a chill run down her spine when she heard Itaru's voice. She yelled at the exact same instant he turned on the lights. The sudden brightness was enough to make Suzuha flinch for an instant. Kagari was wearing a full-faced helmet and that made all the difference. She leapt towards Ataru just a moment before Suzuha. Kagari's black knife went up into his throat. Kagari spun around behind him using Ataru's huge body as a shield. Suzuha staggered towards him, gritting her teeth. Okay, long pause, nice. But Kagari remained silent as she headed outside the door with her hostage, and then in the next moment she shoved him forwards. Itaru lost his balance and fell towards Suzuha. Suzuha fell to the ground underneath his weight. Itaru just barely managed to support himself with his arms and legs to keep from crushing her. Suzuha tried to shove him off using a little more force than she would have intended. But Itaru was so huge it would take him a moment to get up. She was getting away. She somehow managed to crawl out from under him and quickly tried to follow after Kagari. Oh yeah, she's completely naked. Itaru was still lying on the ground as he tossed the naked Suzuha's shirt. She grabbed it and quickly put it on, then ran outside, still completely naked from the bottom down. Hint, hint. But when she looked around the street, the girl in the motorcycle leathers wasn't there. There was no way to even know where she'd gone. It would be dangerous to run around trying to find her now. There was a chance Itaru would be attacked while she wasn't at the lab. Itaru came outside as well. The bruises and wounds were bad enough, but the pain that ached in her heart was the worst of all. Itaru straightened up her shirt sleeves. Wow. You are naked from the bottom down. Suzuha was caught completely off guard. True, her t-shirt only came down to just below her hips, roughly the length of a miniskirt. Her breasts were almost completely bared. The shirt's hem was turned up and she felt exposed. But Itaru shook his head. Itaru rubbed the part of his neck where the knife blade was. Oh wow, okay. Crying? Under that helmet? After the whole battle with Suzuha? While holding a knife to Itaru's neck? But why? Got an ice cream, you bitch? And then she almost fell forwards. Rintaro managed to catch her before she hit the ground.
おい、鈴葉。
ごめん、平気。でも少しだけ休ませて。
And I think we'll leave it here. That was all that she had the energy to say. She closed her eyes in her dad's arms and her consciousness melted away. Yep, we'll leave it here. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like in the section below, and if you want to see more of this, then do subscribe to the channel as I'll upload every day. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time. Bye bye.